In the last month, the team that I work with delivered almost 3,500 ads across a portfolio of about 5 clients. In fact, most of those were really for about 4 clients because one of my clients was onboarding still. About 3,500 ads in the course of 1 month. It was like a little over 2,000 still images, a little over 1,000 videos, and that was a lot of ads for what was basically 4.5 ad accounts, let's say. I am going to tell you in this episode what I learned from that process, why I do it that way, why my team is structured to produce that much volume, and what I'm trying to do to both increase the volume and the quality of that and the impact that it has on the ad account. About 3,000 ads, 3,500 ads, something like that in the course of a month. I feel really good about that number. I think it's a real step forward. I've been working on this process for a little while now with my clients, with my team internally. I've been trying to increase the volume that my team has created, and really, it's not just about volume; it's also about quality. And every member of my team has been built into a process in some way now to where we're all pulling on that side of the rope. So I just want to say from the outset really clearly that I did not do that anywhere close to alone. Many hands touched this, and many hands were involved with making this really good. I have a creative strategist who's also really administrative and detail-oriented around the process side of things. She is awesome at this. She's also done a lot of the briefing for clients. I have a media buying manager, a digital media manager who has also been a really big part of that. Again, a mix of sort of doing some ad briefing himself with some media buying type things. So people, it's a small enough team. There's 3 of us in the US, and now there are 6 of us in the Philippines. And there's a small enough team total to where people are wearing a number of hats. You've heard me say I'm not trying to grow the agency service very much, like in terms of adding more clients over time. I'm really primarily trying to do as great of a job as I possibly can for my clients. And that means constantly that team of the 3 of us in the US plus my team in the Philippines, which includes a couple of graphic designers, a couple of video editors, an ad builder, sort of an entry-level media buying job as well, with hopefully some growth opportunities there also, and a project manager, sort of a lead who's directing traffic on a lot of that stuff, all built in the Philippines as well. So that is what the team is outputting. I should say about those ads. Well, let me say a little bit more about the team first, so you have a better sense of what's going on. So all 3 of our people in the US are involved with the briefing process for different clients, but primarily it is my other 2 team members who are doing a lot of the briefing with input from me, helping shape direction and process and ideas and formats and those kinds of things. They are both very talented people who are really engaged with the process and who have done a great job getting better and better all the time and sort of building their workflow into my thinking. They are very helpful for me. I'm not a great process builder, and so they've been incredibly helpful to me in taking ideas that I have and turning them into actionable things that really help clients. In the Philippine side, that project manager in particular is really crucial. She is a huge part of making sure that things are getting ads are getting feedback early on before they even make it to us, that she's keeping the quality level high. She is just so awesome, and I'm incredibly thankful for her. And then, as I said, I've got sort of individual contributors along the way. I initially had hired the media buying manager on my team. He was doing the ad building initially. That was sort of his entry point about a year and a half ago now, maybe about a year ago, his entry point into digital marketing. And so for him, that sort of just the manual work of building ads, that was sort of his step into the digital marketing world. Well, over time, his role has changed and has been reshaped. And because of that, we were able to add a resource in the Philippines to do this sort of report building and ad buying that freed up more time back in the US, which also produced the ability to generate more ads, because now I had somebody to build the ads, which was a bottleneck before, as well as people to brief the ads. And that all of those different things, all those different elements of this have all, in my view, been parts of these little bits over time, one bit after another. At some point, maybe I'll do a full breakdown of how we got here, but they've all been a really important part of generating a process that has been able to scale my output. for my clients. And that is the first thing I want to note about all of this. That process has required a huge amount of effort over time. Like, we did not get there overnight. And I believe there's a lot farther for us to go. So let me tell you a little bit more about the ads themselves so you can better understand what 3,500 ads or whatever actually amounts to. So like I said, about 2/3 of those ads are still images. Now, the way we end up doing still images, and I'm going to link to an episode I did recently where I talked about the parts of the ad creative process that I believe right now are more expensive versus the parts that are less expensive in this process. So it's certainly not 3,500 individually different ideas, right? Instead, there's a mix of concepts and then variations on those concepts. And that distinction is really key. So for at the still image level, we're now at a point where almost every time we deliver stills, there's between 100 and 200 actual different images that get delivered, and sometimes up to like 300. And that's because what we're doing is we're taking an ad angle that we want to work with, and we're looking at the available imagery that we have and in terms of raw assets and then also design capabilities. And we're trying to figure out as best as possible, how do we combine up headlines and body copy on images with various approaches to the actual design of the image or the photography or whatever it is, right? So basically, you're taking copy and image and combining them a lot of different ways. And one of the crucial ideas for me is that when you're in the midst of a concept, let's say you're doing a comparison ad and you want to compare product A with a competitor, all right? Well, there's actually a lot of different ways to do that, both from a design and copy perspective. And what we end up doing a lot of is we say, don't choose which way you think will work. Do the things that you think will work. But when you're in that ad creative process and you're going, how do I decide which ad copy to use? How do I decide which headline to use? Don't decide. Just make both. Okay. And that ends up creating, or same thing with imagery, right? If you're making a design decision at the image level and you're like, I don't know which one of these I prefer, if I want to compare it in this table with these colors, or if I want to try and, use product imagery versus not, whatever. There's all these little decisions that happen in that process. What I'm saying to the team in general is, instead of deciding, just make both, because by the time that you have the idea in your head, it really isn't very much more work to create another variation. And so there are these packages at times of various edges. I guess there are times when it's less than 100. And then there's also format changes, a 1x1 version versus a 9x16. But each of these different units creates expanded output. And there are definitely times when variation A drastically, in fact, I would say almost every time, variation A or B or C drastically outperforms variation D or E or F of a certain ad. And it is really hard to predict which one of those is going to work. So rather than predict, we just make both and build our process so that we can get both into the ad account and let Metascale the winner. And I'm going to talk more about the media buying side of this in a second. But if you get the media buying side tied in to the ad creative side, you have a really good ability. If those two things are really aligned strategically, you have this way of thinking about ad production that goes right into the way of doing ad distribution, and the whole thing works together really, really well. This is why it's really crucial that you understand what you're trying to accomplish at the ad distribution side, which is normally what people call media buying. If you know what you're trying to do there, and if you know what the way you're going to test this creative is there, you are going to have a much better opportunity to think about what kind of ads you create in the creative process. So that all is like aligned in one part of the process. Now, at the video level, we have way less variations per individual concept, which is why there's 1,000 video ads as opposed to 2,000 still image ads. And that's because still image duplication is way faster than video duplication, right? We're making one core concept of a video. A lot of these videos, by the way, are like 3+ minutes. Some of them are getting to be 5+ minutes long. So it's not only a lot of videos, but some of these are pretty long videos. Not all of them, but some of them are pretty long videos because we like the explainer format so much, and we find that works really well. I will link again both a recent episode about how I think about creative production process and the cheap part versus the expensive part, like I mentioned earlier. I'll also link to my long form explainer episode where I talk more about what that process is like and how I think about the long form explainer. I've got more thoughts on that more recently, and probably am due for another round on that. But For now, I'll link what I have there so you can get some sense of what I'm talking about here. In any case, those ads, what we're really producing variations of there is the hook. The hook is where we spend the most time creating variations in the ad. And there's a really specific reason for that that's really important to understand, which is that Meta is picking your winning ads based off of people's engagement signals. And so the more engagement you're getting on the beginning of an ad, which is disproportionately where you get the initial engagement, that's what is going to signal to Meta what is most likely to be a winning or losing ad. It's basing its probability forecast of the performance of your ad on how people engage. And so the engagement signals on the front of the ad have an overweighted emphasis on, or have a larger impact, I should say, on the way that Meta is going to scale or not scale an ad, so far as I can tell. And so you sort of create additional impact of your ads if you can generate better hooks. And this is a very, very similar idea to what I was saying about still images. Actually, once you've made the core video idea, once you've written the body of the script and the offer and all of those sections of your video script or your video brief or whatever, if you're wondering how I produced 3,500 ads in a month, I didn't do it. I did it with help from my team that is primarily based in the Philippines via Behind the Scenes Studio. Behind the Scenes Studio is a sister company of More Staffing, who you've heard me talk about before. And they're really built around helping you scale up your creative team. And in fact, they have scaled up their creative team with the methodology that I use, so that they've built their process around being able to take individual ad concepts, spin out lots of variations, and help you accomplish a similar approach to creative that I have done here, where you can really get all kinds of iterations and variations with incredibly good designers and video editors. My lead graphic designer in the Philippines with Behind the Scenes Studio actually used to work on a major magazine in the Philippines and then came and worked for me as well. She's full-time with me, so while it is an agency type service, at the same time I have dedicated employees who are full-time because I have that much work. If you don't have that much work, you can get fractional work from them. If you want to scale up a team that works with you all the time, you can do that. It is just a really, really good way to build out extremely high quality design and edit capabilities for your ad approach, for your meta ads approach, across your business, whether you're an agency or whether you are on the brand side. Go to behindthescenes.studio. There's a link in my show notes, behindthescenes.studio, to get started with Behind the Scenes or get on their wait list. They only have so many spots right now, I believe. So get a conversation started there, behindthescenes.studio. You will really be helped by them. You actually don't have a very hard time creating different hook variations, right? Because you can go and say like, oh, if I want to start with a hook about like, I don't know, let's just say you're saying, the current product you're using for this problem that you're trying to solve is bad. Okay. That could be one hook, right? Another version of the hook could be one I talk about all the time, right? This is product from brand, and this is why it's good. So a more positively stated version of it that's emphasizing clarity. You could try a sort of more wild creative hook, but all of those are actually fairly quick to come up with. Fairly simple to shoot. We're starting to actually leverage AI some more to do video overlays, even some AI avatars at times and some ads as ways to execute this, or having somebody pick up a camera and create the long form explainer for us. But in any case, the hook variations are not too hard either. And so we go and create a bunch of those variations. So that said, that is what this these ads look like. And that ends up, those hook variations end up producing basically 10 or 12 video ads per concept, whereas still images are much more than that, where it's a much simpler variation at a higher volume. So you put that all together, and we're producing a huge amount of stuff. Now, I want to walk through some things that I've learned in building this process, and I'll say baseline, I think this process is working for our clients. We're seeing steady, if not increasing spend. Sometimes we're hitting home runs. Sometimes we're hitting singles, right? Sometimes there's a mix of performance levels, but we're consistently getting spend out to some degree as we launch concepts. Not every one of them, but as we launch concepts, we're consistently getting them. And what I'm trying to think about more is how to find all of the little parts of that process. We've gotten pretty good at this point at handling the sort of operational side of that. There's more things we can do in terms of like the actual design and video stuff. My team in the Philippines is just so good that they have done an awesome job of being able to expand the output and really build a process for how to turn individual turn these concepts into lots of variations with some speed. So that's great. We're pretty good at saying what stuff needs to be prioritized and all those things. What I still want to do is keep getting better at finding any places where there are kinks in that system, keep unkinking them, and then to think about also how we add more quality into it. Okay. So let me give you 4 lessons from this process so far on the baseline assumption that this is working. This is the most ads we've ever outputted in a month. And on the baseline assumption that this is working for our clients. And again, I think that's a reasonable assumption. My clients are mostly doing well, growing. Some are growing really significantly. Some are growing more slowly. It depends on where they're at in their process, but they're growing. Mostly, I think, happy with the work. We're going to keep investing in this because we're seeing good results with it, because I think it works. So 4 lessons. Okay. Number 1 is the media buying lesson. You must buy your ads with cost controls. I know I talk about this all the time. I know, but this is one of those situations that I think people just don't think enough about. If you are running separate creative testing campaigns, and I will again link to some more stuff I've done on creative testing methodology and manual bids. So you can go check out more of my content on that. There's a link in the show notes for that. If you're still running creative testing campaigns, just imagine trying to put creative testing ad spend behind 3,000 ads. Now, this is not all for one client, obviously, but you simply cannot spend the money on that many ads in the ad account to test them. You can't do it. It is cost prohibitive to distribute at that level. On the other hand, if Meta is going to pick your winners for you based on extremely small amounts of spend, and will take engagement signals really seriously for you, if you've built a campaign setup so that Meta will do that work for you, first of all, you now, aside from even by the way, the testing budget, there's the brain space budget, right? You just cannot stay on top of that many ads. Like, no human can do it. No human can tell how many of those are working. You instead have to only respond to massive winners and massive losers. Well, really not even massive losers, massive winners. Those are the ones you'll see in the ad account because they'll float to the top of your spend. But you simply can't stay on top of all of those ads, because it will just be too much mental effort, aside from the actual dollar cost of doing it. So you have to build, if you want to do this kind of strategy, you have to be running manual bids. And that's one way of framing this, but you should also frame it the other way, which is that manual bids allow you to do this strategy. Manual bids allow you to go into the creative production process with the knowledge that you don't have to put serious ad dollars behind every ad, that Meta will rank these things for you based on whatever signals it's getting. And yes, there will probably be some false negatives. And yes, there will probably be some false positives in there, but I don't care. I don't care at all, because I am trying, as I said before, to win the most hands at poker that I possibly can. And yes, there will be some hands that don't work out, even though I make the quote unquote right bet. Okay. But that's okay with me, because I'm going to win in the aggregate. And that is well worth it to me for building this strategy. So that's one of the core ideas here, that you have to do this. The thing is, it's also getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And I am building more process to try to create more volume here, help my team create more volume, not less. And so that means that the amount of ad production we are going to do is only going to go up. And again, and I think that's going to be true for everybody. I think AI is going to make us get to a point here where the cost of ad production per ad continues to go down and down and down. So because of that, I think I think that you are going to have to get to a point where you're good at running manual bids and letting manual bids scale your ads for you. Otherwise, this simply won't be viable, and you will just be left in the dust on the ability to create this kind of output. So you need to be running manual bids. You need to ditch your creative testing campaigns, and you need to let them scale your ads for you. And that I'm almost framing as if it's like some kind of a problem, but it's not a problem. It is the greatest. It is so helpful that you can do this. It is so useful that you can do this. It allows you to go and take way more risks in your creative production approach. It allows you to try ideas that you wouldn't try otherwise. It allows you to not worry too much in advance about whether you think something will work or not. Instead, you just put it in there. And that is so freeing in the creative process because you just don't have to worry that you're going to blow money on a bad ad. It's not going to happen. It suppresses that for you. Plus, it amplifies your winners really, really fast, way better than you or I could if we were individually managing the account. So it's just incredibly helpful. I've got an episode of this podcast coming up that I want you to subscribe to the show because I've got an episode coming up with Jacob Posel, I think is the way you say his last name, from Common Thread Collective, who is leading their build out of the AI tools that Common Thread Collective is doing. And he listened to my episode from a little while ago about the use of AI in ads, which is still very much a live issue for me in terms of how best to use that. He had some thoughts about it. And so I said, well, don't tell me, come on the podcast, tell everybody, because I think this is going to be a fascinating thing to figure out more and more how this plays into the total process. But yes, you have to be running cost controls. And certainly what CTC is doing is trying to continue to build the ad creative process so that the cost goes down and down and down, the volume goes up and up and up because you can run ads based on cost controls. Okay. So number one, you have to be doing that. It's crucial to this whole plan of 3,500 ads in a month or whatever. Okay. Number two, build processes for volume. Okay. You do not get to 3,000 ads, even if you have a certain amount of manpower involved, right? Overnight. It has required us to build out the Asana side of things. It's using tools like Frame to test ads and Notion for briefing. And there's a bunch of different little parts of this process for us that we've built our way. We have to build processes for letting clients know how things get published. There's an Asana to Slack automation where every time an ad gets published, it kicks a notification on Slack so people see that. We group them by concept, right? So they don't see 3,000 Slack notifications a month. But all of these little things. And then on the team side, helping different people understand where their part of the process is to create more volume. So there's part of it is that building it up over time, having people involved who can help, who are detail oriented, administrative. This is not me, but who can help sort these sorts of things out. And I'm so thankful for those people on my team because they just have made it so that we can serve my clients in a way that I think is much better than I possibly could do, if I was working alone or working with these other teams. Another thing we've been able to do, by the way, for the process for volume, and this is also related to the cost controls issue, is that, of course, that's our ad output for brands, but it's not all the content that's going into the ad account. What about organic social content that they're making, which I've talked about before as being potentially valuable, influencer content, creator content, like TikTok content that's going in there. So there's all kinds of other content that's being made in the ad account. And all of that is also getting there and getting into the ad account. And so that also allows us to expand volume output from other sources on top of the volume that we're producing internally, right? It's also, international versions of ads and different bidding methods and things like that. So some of these ads are being built 4 times in the ad account, right? Before in different campaign setups and those kinds of things. And so we're trying to build this ability to get a team all pulling on this in a way that you can actually produce the kind of volume that you want to produce here. Now, what we are trying to do is say, where are we still getting stuck? Okay. And that sometimes is on the scripting level. There's times when we can use more boilerplate for different parts of explainer ads for clients. The offer in CTA is often the same for certain things. There's body copy that could be the same for a product across 5 different angles. There's also potentially a way to use tools to make it so that, I know like Canva has a tool where you can basically give Canva 5 images and create one sort of copy setting, and it will immediately put the copy across all 5 images. I don't get down to that level of ad making usually, but there's stuff like that, tools to make it so that you can spin out still image variations. And all these tools are getting better and faster all the time. So one of the things I'm doing with help from some amazing clients, among other people, is working on building out more and more places where we can find things that are slowing us down and go faster. Even on the ad building side, I'm starting to think more about this. How can we, as a team, find any place where we're getting slowed down unnecessarily, not slowed down by creative work? I don't mind if we're getting slowed down by conceptual work. That actually, I think, is in some ways okay, because I want people to work through difficult creative challenges for brands. That actually requires thought work. What I want to see, though, is where there are tasks that are simple tasks that are just sort of busy work that we can continue to find ways to work on. And again, I'm actually not even the one doing all of that kind of stuff. I've got other people working with me who are built into that process. But if you want to do this kind of output, that is the kind of problem solving you have to do. There are little places. Part of it just requires listening. I mean, I've definitely found that listening to people and saying like, hey, where are you getting slowed down? I mean, do we need to get you faster internet? Like, I mean, there's all kinds of different things where you can see that problem. Even creative reviews from clients. Are we getting slowed down on the turnaround time for when clients review and send feedback on ads and those kinds of things? So finding all of those places and sort of ruthlessly seeking to eliminate them as you build the process really makes a difference, because every one of those kinks you can unkink turns into a place to create more volume for clients and more output, and that allows you to work through ideas faster. Many of the 3,500 ads that my team produced that I'm referencing in this episode are sending traffic to landing pages that were developed with my friends at FERMAT. FERMAT is really more than landing pages. It's full funnels customized to every ad account. Their whole idea, right, is to create funnels, landing page experiences, post-click experiences with the same speed and with the same ability to create variations and do testing that you would for your ad approach. Take the same idea that I'm talking about in this episode, being able to create a huge amount of volume, test a lot of different stuff really fast, really effectively, and to do that via a mix of best-in-class landing page funnel software. I mean, it's really, really cool. Insane. I mean, the fastest loading landing pages I've ever seen in my life, bar none. That's not even close. Incredibly fast loading landing pages with a mix of pre-built template, pre-built testing ideas from their team, built-in split testing and analytics at the level of every single page, the ability to keep one link and then change out split tests all the time so you don't have to go change your meta ads links all the time. I mean, the software is really slick. It's simply the most robustly built landing page funnel software I've ever seen. And it actually goes to custom PDPs for different landers that you run. You can run custom carts off the back of them. There's like incredible amounts of possibilities here to create really tight funnels for your ads. And when the reason that I took FERMAT as a sponsor is because one of my clients in particular started seeing huge success. That we really have gotten to a point where we've at least doubled our ad spend once we added FERMAT and started working with them to build really tight funnels. So I'm a huge fan of it. And on top of the software, there's an agency service that goes with it so that you actually get not just the software itself, but real expertise around what is working across other brands in your category, etc. And they can bring that expertise and also the power to build out those landers really fast. So it's not just really cool software that then weighs down your team because you have to spend all your time in the software building stuff out. They'll do the building for you as part of the service. That, at first, to be honest, I was a little skeptical of that. I wondered if that would really be worth it or if that was just a way to sell more. Now I am extremely thankful for it and think it is the way to build landers at scale in your business. So if landing pages are a big part of your business, you should be working with FERMAT. You can do that by going to fermatcommerce.com/AF. The link is in the show notes, fermatcommerce.com/AF. Get started with them. Get on a call, see if it's the right setup for you. It is my, by far, number one recommendation at this point for any landing page-based strategies. fermatcommerce.af, go check it out. And then number 3, if it sounds like all I care about is volume here, that's actually wrong. I am also trying to build processes for better quality, because there's another step we could make here where what happens if we can take this volume, keep it at a high level, but then increase our hit rate, right? So let's say, I mean, I don't really know, but let's say 20% of my ads work right now, okay? I actually have no idea what the number is. So we're just gonna make that number up. 20% of the ads hit. If I can turn that 20% into 25% or 30%, it will make a huge difference for clients because I already have the process built for volume. And so now what I'm spending a lot of time thinking about and what I intend to make public when I've got it more dialed in is I am building this process for trying to make it so that at the briefing level and at the idea level, we do a better job of finding the right inroads to communicate the value of our products to customers in a way that resonates with them and therefore generates economic value for the brand and value in the product for the consumer, right? Basically, increase the conversion rate, increase the hit rate. But I don't like thinking about it just in terms of taking people's money. I want to think about how do I actually produce value for people? And that's the goal. So So the ways that I'm thinking about that now is digging back into tools like AI tools and thinking, can we use AI tools to better clarify what the actual explainer process is like internally for us? So we can think about generating really great hooks and all those by getting really clear and then feeding the LLM the information, getting really clear about what makes a great hook in the ad. I mean, it's just really hard to generate great hooks if you can't articulate what a great hook is. And so I've been thinking more about that. How do you think about angle? How do you think about customer and who you're talking to? How do you think about what the right feature and benefit to focus on is, or whatever format? Even being more aware and thinking about, okay, what formats do we work within, and how can we do as great of a job as possible? I've actually even been thinking about trying to eliminate some formats and focus even more all the time for what AJF growth does into fewer formats, but do them really, really, really well. That way we can really master them before we try to add more of them. So there's this focus component of what we're trying to create. And look, if a client wants other formats of ads, fantastic. There's other creative agencies who do a great job, who might be better equipped to create TikTok style creative than what my AJF growth can create, or whatever. Maybe someday we add resources towards that. But trying to think more and more all the time about how I build quality into the process, because I'm not satisfied with the idea that volume alone is the answer to the problem. What I think is, if you can actually produce some level of quality by getting really clear about what makes a good ad, like really, really clear, and then build a process to help multiple people create that kind of output, then you can be really good. I have talented team members now who do a pretty good job on this. Like I said, spend is growing. We're getting some level of hits, but I also think we could do better. I think we could communicate better, and communication is not easy, and it requires us to get really clear. It requires me to get really clear about what will work and about what won't work. And so we've gotten some of that so far, right? We work within formats that we believe in, styles that we believe in. There's a few things we do a lot of: long form explainers, social native still image ads. We do some text and context ads, right? Which is like the post-it note ad, that type of thing. Whether it's actually a post-it note or not, it's like the text in the image. Comparisons, we do a lot of that kind of stuff. Simple design stills. There's all kinds of different things that are in our playbook right now, but we're thinking all the time, okay, how do we take those formats that we believe in stylistically, and then you get better at the actual messaging side? And that's what I'm trying to build more process around. So that's number 3, quality. Number 4, this is another lesson from this that I think is really easy to overlook, which is that you should build your team overseas. There's just no way this would be possible for me and my clients if my team was not overseas. And my recommendation is that you do that in the Philippines. I have a sponsor on the show that I've had for a long time called More Staffing. They have a side of their business that is specifically focused on scaling up creative teams for meta ads called Behind the Scenes Studio. They're sponsoring this episode. They are great. Like, it is the kind of thing that you should be thinking about doing, because it is a great value add for all parties. I want to be really clear. I am not saying that you should decrease the quality and be willing to do that because it's cheap. Not at all. My team is good. They create good quality ads. They are experienced designers and video editors. It is simply a matter of arbitraging the macroeconomic realities of the world in a way that actually produces value for both parties. And there's a couple things we do in the Philippines here. Just again, I want to be clear that I don't think this is remotely exploitative. Like, what I actually think is it creates incredible opportunity. A team member of mine recently said her hope is that AJF growth is her retirement plan. I take that kind of positive feedback really seriously. So she is clearly not feeling exploited in this. She has a job that she really likes. She's part of our team. We do things like we don't make them work graveyards because that's really bad for people. Like, I don't, it's just like bad for their health. I don't want to do that. We pay above market in the Philippines, but less than it would cost for the same person in the US. It's the stuff I talk about with this all the time. And for me, I just don't know why you wouldn't be considering how to do this. Now, we've had to build more process over time for how to integrate those folks into our team, but there is some friction there, right? They're across the world and time zones and all those kinds of things. But actually, that's been another value for us, that they're in different time zones and that they don't work graveyards at the same time. Why? Because it means that we are not slacking each other with questions. We are just trusting each other to solve problems. And then we have occasional meetings to sync on things whenever we need to and on the overlap times. But mostly people are able to actually get the work done instead of be stuck in meetings that don't really do anything. So I actually think it's been a helpful constraint for us that we're in such different time zones. I'm in California. So is another one of my team members in the US. One of my team members in the US is in Washington, D.C., which is a little easier for Filipino time zones. But it's been a really, really big win for us and for my team there, according to the way they would say it, the way we would say it. And so I just think it's one of the things that whether you're a brand or an agency or otherwise, finding good quality people that you pay a good rate to do a really good job, treating them awesome, can be a really big win for every party involved, and it's something you should be considering doing. So those are my 4 lessons from 3,500 ads. The formats and those kinds of things are still what I think works. Clarity still works. Make sure you are, as above all, clear in the ad account. That's probably should be the 5th one, right? Ads need to be clear to win. That's the place where most ads go wrong. If nothing else, just make sure you don't make ads that are confusing. Clarity wins over everything else. Directness wins over everything else. But in the midst of that, those 4 lessons are: build with cost controls in your media buying strategy so you can produce meaningful output. Number 2, build processes for volume. Number 3, build processes for quality. It's not just a volume game, though the volume really helps. You take more swings and more risks. And then number 4, hire in the Philippines with or elsewhere overseas. But really, if you're looking in the Philippines and you want a place to start with this, go hire in the Philippines with my friends at Behind the Scenes Studio. This is not a sponsored episode. This is actually just like my reflection on how well this has worked and how much I think of those people. So that's that. Give me your feedback. I would love to hear what you think of that. And I will talk to you next time. All right, all the links. There's a few episodes I referenced. The links are in the show notes. I would love for you to go check those out and to subscribe. There's a bunch of good stuff coming up, including that episode with Jacob that I mentioned. That's going to be really good. I've got Ash Milwani from Obvi coming soon to talk about international ad buying. You're not going to want to miss that episode. He's seen huge success there. I've seen big success there with a client recently, so I want to talk about that. There's just a lot of really good stuff coming. So make sure you don't miss any of those. And reach out to me, podcast@ajfgrowth.com or at Andrew J. Ferris on Twitter are the best places to do that. You can see everything I'm doing. Sign up for my email list at ajfgrowth.com. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you next time.